A woman does not feel emotionally safe because a man talks more. She feels safe because his presence is stable. When a man becomes unpredictable, needy, or emotionally weak, her mind quietly begins searching for security somewhere else. Most men think emotional security comes from constant reassurance. They believe that more texting, more explaining, and more emotional conversations will make a woman feel safe. But female psychology does not work that way. A woman's emotional system is wired to read stability. She watches how a man moves through pressure. She notices how he reacts when things go wrong. She observes how calm he remains when emotions rise. Your presence is the signal that her nervous system reads. When your presence is grounded, she relaxes. When your presence is uncertain, her mind becomes restless. This is not about dominance. This is about emotional leadership. A masculine presence is not loud. It is steady. Psychologists explain that emotional safety is deeply connected to predictability. The human brain feels secure when it senses stability in the environment. This applies strongly to romantic relationships. When a man constantly shifts his behavior, his energy, and his reactions, it creates emotional instability. One day he is confident. The next day he is anxious. One moment he is calm. The next moment he is reactive. Her brain begins to sense chaos. And chaos triggers emotional distance. This is why a woman can slowly lose attraction without even understanding why. It is rarely about a single argument. It is about patterns of emotional instability. Your presence becomes the environment she lives inside. If that environment feels strong, calm, and reliable, she naturally relaxes into her feminine energy. If that environment feels tense, needy, or unpredictable, her nervous system stays alert. A woman does not want to feel like she must manage a man's emotions. The moment she starts feeling responsible for your emotional stability, the polarity begins to fade. This is where many men unknowingly destroy attraction. They begin asking for reassurance. They begin explaining their insecurities. They begin reacting emotionally to small changes in her behavior. And slowly the dynamic shifts. Instead of feeling protected by your presence, she begins feeling like she must emotionally support you. At that point, the roles quietly reverse. And attraction begins to disappear. A masculine presence creates emotional gravity. It pulls the relationship into stability. When problems appear, you stay calm. When emotions rise, you stay centered. When tension appears, you slow the energy instead of amplifying it. This calm presence tells her nervous system something powerful. It tells her she is safe. Not safe because life is perfect, but safe because you can handle uncertainty. Women instinctively respect men who can regulate their emotions under pressure. This ability signals strength. Neuroscience shows that emotional regulation is one of the strongest indicators of psychological resilience. People who remain calm during stress activate problem-solving areas of the brain instead of emotional panic systems. When you regulate your emotions, you create a stable emotional field around you. And people naturally trust stable environments. This is why leadership presence feels attractive. It is not about control. It is about emotional control. Think about the difference between two men in a stressful moment. The first man reacts instantly. His voice rises. His frustration becomes visible. His emotions spill into the room. The second man pauses. He breathes slowly. He processes the situation before reacting. One creates tension. The other creates calm. Which presence feels safer? This is exactly what female psychology reads. A woman studies how a man responds to uncertainty. Does he panic when plans change? Does he become insecure when attention shifts? Does he overreact when challenged? Or does he remain steady? A steady man creates emotional gravity. He does not chase emotional validation. He does not seek constant approval. He does not become reactive when things do not go his way. Instead, he stays grounded in his direction, his mission, his purpose. Purpose creates masculine stability. A man without purpose often becomes emotionally dependent on relationships. His identity begins revolving around the woman. And when that happens, emotional pressure builds. She begins feeling like the relationship is carrying his entire emotional life. That pressure slowly erodes attraction. But a man with purpose carries his own emotional center. His life has direction outside the relationship. He has goals. He has responsibilities. He has vision. This naturally stabilizes his presence. And stability creates emotional security. The most attractive men are rarely the loudest men. They are the calmest. They move slowly. They speak clearly. They do not rush to prove themselves. They do not argue to win emotional battles. They observe. They listen. They respond with control. This type of presence sends a powerful signal to the subconscious mind. It signals leadership. Women instinctively feel safe around men who demonstrate emotional leadership. Because leadership reduces uncertainty. And uncertainty creates anxiety in the human brain. A man who controls his reactions controls the emotional temperature of the relationship. This is why arguments often escalate when both people react emotionally. But when one person stays grounded, tension naturally decreases. Calmness spreads. Energy mirrors energy. If you stay composed, the emotional environment stabilizes. Your presence becomes the anchor. Another important factor is consistency. Consistency builds trust. If your words constantly change, your behavior constantly shifts, or your emotional reactions are unpredictable, trust slowly weakens. But when your behavior remains consistent over time, reliability grows. Reliability creates psychological safety. A woman begins to feel that she understands who you are. She begins to feel that she can relax in your presence. This relaxation is deeply connected to attraction. Many men focus only on excitement. They believe attraction comes only from thrill and intensity. But long-term attraction requires emotional safety. Excitement without safety creates chaos. Safety without excitement creates boredom. A balanced masculine presence provides both calm strength and emotional stability. This combination creates deep attraction. Another mistake many men make is over-explaining their intentions. They try to verbally prove their reliability. But emotional security is rarely built through words. It is built through repeated behavior. Through actions. Through consistency. Through calm responses under pressure. Over time your presence becomes predictable in the best way. Not boring. Stable. Your reactions become measured. Your energy remains grounded. Your direction remains clear. This is when a woman begins trusting your leadership. She does not need constant reassurance because your behavior already provides it. Your presence becomes the reassurance. Think about the strongest men you have ever observed. They rarely chase emotional approval. They rarely react impulsively. They rarely lose composure. Instead, they move with calm confidence. That calm confidence creates emotional safety for everyone around them. Women naturally gravitate toward this type of presence because it reduces emotional uncertainty. Your presence becomes a psychological shelter. Not a prison. A shelter. A space where emotional chaos slows down. Where decisions become clear. Where energy becomes calm. This is masculine stability. And stability creates security. Emotional security does not come from perfection. It comes from emotional strength. Strength is not the absence of emotion. Strength is the ability to manage emotion. A strong man feels emotions but does not let emotions control his behavior. He understands his reactions. He regulates his responses. He remains centered even when life becomes unpredictable. This ability creates deep respect. And respect is the foundation of lasting attraction. When a woman respects your emotional strength, she feels safe expressing her own emotions. She can relax. She can trust the relationship. She knows that storms will not break the foundation. Because your presence remains solid. This is the hidden truth most men never learn. Your presence is the emotional climate of the relationship. If your presence is stable, the climate becomes calm. If your presence is unstable, the climate becomes chaotic. Women do not simply listen to what you say. They feel who you are. They feel the energy you carry. They feel the strength of your emotional control. And that feeling determines whether they relax into the relationship or slowly distance themselves. Build a presence that feels grounded. Build a life that gives you direction. Develop emotional control that keeps you steady under pressure. When your presence becomes stable, something powerful happens. A woman no longer searches for emotional security. She feels it the moment she stands next to you.